Welcome back to Kuma English Listening Hub. Today we're going behind the scenes of something most of us rely on, but rarely think about: live subtitles. Not the captions you can add later in a studio, but the ones that appear in real time during breaking news, sports interviews, press conferences, and live events. If you've ever watched a live broadcast and noticed captions that are surprisingly accurate, you might assume a computer does all the work. Sometimes it does. But often, there's a human in the loop, working at high speed, making thousands of micro decisions every minute. Live subtitling is a hidden craft where language, technology, and pressure meet. Let's start with a simple question. What makes live captions difficult? It's not just typing fast. In a live situation, you can't pause the speaker. You can't ask them to repeat a sentence. You can't rewind to check a name. Meanwhile, the audience expects captions to be readable, correctly timed, and polite enough for public broadcasting. On top of that, spoken language is messy. People interrupt each other, swallow words, use slang, change direction halfway through a sentence, or start with one idea and finish with another. They might say, "So what we're trying to do is, it's kind of complicated, but basically..." A captioner has to decide what to keep, what to simplify, and how to make it coherent without misrepresenting the speaker. There are three main methods used for live subtitles today. The first is fully automatic speech recognition, where software listens and converts speech to text. This has improved dramatically, especially for clear audio and standard accents. But it still struggles with overlapping voices, strong regional accents, background noise, and specialized vocabulary. The second method is Respeaking. A trained human listens to the live audio and repeats it clearly into a microphone, often adding punctuation and commands like "new line" or "comma" as they speak. A speech recognition system is then trained on that person's voice, so accuracy becomes much higher than if the computer tried to decode the original broadcast. The third method is stenography, also called stenotype. This is a skill that looks almost like playing an instrument. A stenographer uses a special keyboard with far fewer keys than a normal one. Instead of typing letter by letter, they press combinations of keys that represent sounds, syllables, or even whole words. With practice, a stenographer can produce text at speeds that match fast speech. Each method has trade-offs. Automatic captions are cheaper and can scale easily, but may be less accurate. Respeaking is flexible and relatively fast to train, but it depends heavily on the speaker's skill and the quality of their speech recognition setup. Stenography can be extremely accurate and fast, but it requires years of training and is not easy to recruit for. Now, let's zoom in on what a live captioner actually does minute by minute. First, they prepare. Preparation is a huge part of the job, even though the audience never sees it. Before a scheduled event, a captioner might receive a running order, a list of speakers, or a rough script. They build a glossary with names, place names, acronyms, and technical terms. If there's a press conference about aviation safety, they'll add aircraft models and agency names. If it's a political debate, they'll add ministers, cities, and policy terms. This glossary matters because live captions often rely on predictive systems. If the software knows that Kawamura or Jizo is likely to appear, it's more likely to output the correct spelling instead of something that merely sounds similar. During the live broadcast, the captioner monitors audio quality like a sound engineer. A slight echo, a sudden change of microphone, or a guest speaking from across the room can cause errors. Good captioners learn to anticipate these problems and adapt quickly. They also manage delay. Live captions are rarely perfectly synchronized with speech. There is usually a small lag, perhaps a few seconds, because the system needs time to process audio and because the captioner needs time to produce readable text. The goal is to keep that delay stable. If the lag grows too large, the captions become confusing. If the captioner tries to reduce the lag too aggressively, accuracy may drop. One of the most interesting parts is condensation. This means summarizing speech without changing its meaning. Imagine a speaker says, What I want to emphasize here, and I really do want to emphasize it, is that the situation is not as simple as it looks at first glance. A captioner might render that as, I want to emphasize that the situation is not as simple as it first appears. Notice what happened. The repetition was removed, the sentence became cleaner, but the meaning stayed intact. Condensation is not censorship. It's a practical technique to keep text readable at the pace of live speech. Captioners also have to make decisions about tone. If a speaker makes a joke, do you preserve the informal style? Usually, yes. But you may need to adjust the wording so it lands correctly as text. Humor can depend on timing, and timing is exactly what captions struggle with. Sometimes captions deliver the punchline a moment late, and the room laughs before the audience can read it. Then there's the issue of numbers. Spoken numbers can be ambiguous. If someone says 15 and the topic is finance, is it $15, 15 million, 15%? A captioner may need to wait for context, but waiting increases delay. So they learn to predict, and they learn to correct quickly. Corrections are another hidden art. On many systems, you can't simply backspace what the audience already saw. Instead, you push new text that clarifies the mistake. For example, if a name is misrecognized, the captioner may reintroduce it correctly later. Minister Eiko Tanaka instead of Minister Michael Tanaka. The audience may not notice the fix, but it matters. You might wonder, how do captioners deal with multiple people speaking at once? In a heated debate or a sports interview with interruptions, perfect captions are nearly impossible. Captioners often prioritize the main speaker and reduce side comments. Some broadcasts use labels like host and guest to make it clearer. But labels also take space, and space is limited. Accessibility guidelines often specify maximum characters per line, how long captions should stay on screen, and how to represent sound effects. For example, in some contexts, captions include non-speech audio like applause, music, or door slams. In live news, you may only see those occasionally because the priority is delivering the spoken content. Let's talk about stress. Live captioning is one of those jobs where you can't hide a bad day. If you're tired, if you mishear a word, if your internet drops for a moment, the audience sees it immediately. Many captioners work in shifts. After a certain amount of time, accuracy decreases, just like any other high concentration task. There's also an ethical dimension. Captions are not only a convenience feature. For many deaf and hard of hearing viewers, captions are the primary way to access live information. During emergencies, that can be critical. A miscaptioned evacuation instruction or a confusing medical announcement isn't just embarrassing, it can be dangerous. Because of this, broadcasters often set quality targets. They may measure accuracy with a scoring system that counts errors and weights them by seriousness. A typo is different from changing the meaning of a sentence. Misstating a person's name is different from misstating a location during a crisis. Now, where is all this going? The future of live subtitles is likely to be hybrid. Automatic speech recognition will keep improving, especially with better microphones, better acoustic models, and more training data for different accents. But humans will still play a key role, particularly in high-stakes situations and complex discussions. We're also seeing improvements in personalization. Some platforms can allow viewers to adjust caption size, placement, and even simplify language. Imagine captions that offer two modes: verbatim, for those who want every word, and condensed, for those who prefer readability. That could benefit language learners too, because you could switch depending on your focus. For you, as a C1 learner, live captions offer a fascinating learning tool. They can train your brain to process speech quickly, especially when the speaker is fast or the topic is unfamiliar. But remember that live captions are not always perfect. If you're studying, treat them as support, not as the ultimate authority. Here's a practical exercise. Choose a live interview, preferably with one main speaker and a clear topic. Watch for 2 minutes with captions on, then rewatch the same 2 minutes with captions off. Notice what you understood both times, what you only caught with captions, and what the captions got wrong. This helps you develop both listening confidence and critical awareness. Another exercise is shadowing with captions. Pause frequently, repeat a sentence aloud, and try to match the speaker's rhythm. At C1 level, you can focus on intonation, linking, and the way speakers soften statements with phrases like, to be fair, I would argue, or what tends to happen is. Live broadcasts are full of these natural patterns. So the next time you see captions appearing on screen as a person speaks, remember that you may be watching the result of an intense collaboration between a trained professional and a complex system, both working under pressure. It's language in motion, made visible. If you enjoyed this episode, keep listening with us. On Kuma English Listening Hub, we explore the real-world systems behind everyday experiences, and we turn them into advanced listening practice. Thanks for spending these minutes with me, and I'll see you in the next video.